Welcome back to my channel. I am back with another Baddies USA review, so let's just get right into it because this episode was crazy. So at the very beginning of this episode, the baddies end up going to rehearsal because they have a performance coming up later that night in Atlanta, and they were shocked to see that Summer actually ended up showing up because of the ass whooping that she got from Big Lex the previous night. And I mean, I'll give it to Summer, she did try to cover up her swollen face with hair, makeup, and some glasses, but it didn't do much because you can still see that her face is swollen. But Jayla and Sapphire start asking Summer how she's feeling after the fight, and she basically tried to make herself out to be a victim. And look, to be fair, I will say this, Lex did not have to whoop Summer as many times as she did. However, that still does not make Summer a victim. If Summer's a victim of anything, it would be that the security team did not break up the fight as fast as they should have. But people are making it a big deal about this fight between Big Lex and Summer and security not breaking it up, but security didn't jump in to break up the fight between her and Ivory last season either, and Ivory had her down on the ground pounding her face in, and she was bleeding after that fight too. It's giving that security or production doesn't really like Summer. But Summer is not a victim in this situation between her, Dolly, and Lex. Honestly, none of them are victims in this situation. Dolly and Lex saw how Summer was to other people and they still decided to be her friend anyway. Now, granted, they didn't think that she would do that to them because if I've had your back and we're supposed to be friends and we've built this bond, I don't expect you to come at me the way that you come at other people. However, we can't say that they didn't know how Summer was. And Summer's not a victim because she's been antagonizing them ever since she decided to end the friendship with the two of them. She's been coming at them damn near every single episode. She could have just shut up and left them two girls alone, especially because both Dolly and Lex told her numerous amounts of times in front of everybody on the cast that they did not want to fight her and they didn't want to take it there, and they gave Summer multiple warnings and she still kept coming at them anyway. Jayla ended up asking Summer that if she didn't have intentions of fighting Dolly and Lex, then why did she get her family members after them? And she claims that she did not get her family members after Dolly and Lex, but that's a lie because Summer was on live at that time right before she showed up to the place to fight Dolly with her family members. Like, she was on live with her family members talking about how they were going to fight Dolly. So maybe she meant that she didn't get them to attack Big Lex, but they still attacked Lex anyway. So if your family members attack me on your behalf, me and you have an issue. And then she starts saying that her and her friends in real life, if they fall out with each other, they would never fight because that's not how she gets down. But she also forgot to mention that she probably doesn't constantly antagonize her ex-friends either, like she was doing to Dolly and Lex. I'm not making Dolly and Lex victims, but Summer cannot sit there and act like she didn't do anything to these girls because we all saw that she was. And even if you don't like Dolly and Lex and you like Summer, you still have to admit that Summer has a big mouth and she does not know when to stop and leave people alone. She's had beef with damn near every single person on this show so far. And so you can't say that it's everybody else and not her. Now, later that night, the baddies end up pulling up to the club to do their performances, and Natalie ends up going first, and I'm not gonna lie, Natalie looked really good in this episode. Her outfit was cute, her hair looked good, like, she looked really nice. And it seemed like this performance actually went well. It seemed a lot more organized, and nobody had any complaints about the music because DJ Airy was the one that was DJing and not DJ Sky. DJ Sky was standing next to DJ Airy, but she wasn't participating in DJing. Now, we didn't get to hear anybody else get booed, but when Gretchen ended up getting on stage to perform her song, she did get booed, and it was definitely affecting her confidence. And honestly, look, I feel bad at the fact that she keeps getting booed and it's messing with her because you can tell that it's hurting her feelings a lot. And I mean, I'm not a fan of Gretchen using the N-word, but I do feel bad at the fact that, you know, she keeps getting booed and it's making her feel some type of way. I truly don't think that if you pay money to go watch these girls perform that you should boo any of them. You can just be quiet while they get up there and perform. But I don't know why Gretchen is so surprised. And maybe she didn't think that this many people didn't like her because every city they go to, she ends up getting booed somehow. But while the baddies are performing, Diamond the Body actually ends up pulling up to the venue. And look, we have not seen Diamond the Body this entire season so far, and I feel like she's a good addition to the show. Besides her beefing with Natalie, because I do not like her beefing with Natalie. I think that's completely pointless because it's Natalie's show at the end of the day, so I don't think there's a point to that. But I will say Diamond does bring entertainment to the show. She doesn't care to call somebody out. She'll fight if she has to, even though she's not the best fighter. So I do think Diamond's entertaining. And as she's walking in her confessional, she starts saying that she has 3 people she wants to address some things with. She said Natalie, Biggie, and Tavy. And look, I am so glad that Natalie decided to leave the club early because of fights breaking out in the crowd, because I did not want to see a conversation between Diamond the Body and Natalie. I'm over that. But I did think that it was crazy how as soon as Diamond was walking in, Biggie, I guess, popped her in the back of the head. Diamond said that she was walking to her section and she got hit in the back of the head and she turned around and it was Biggie, and Biggie was yelling and screaming at Zeus production and security because she felt like they brought Diamond in on purpose because they know that the two of them have issues with each other. And I think it's crazy that Biggie thinks she's bigger than the program because she keeps always thinking that they have to do things to benefit her on the show. They're gonna bring Diamond the body back whether she had beef with Biggie or not because Diamond is entertainment and the fans like her. So the way that she was going off was unnecessary because Diamond didn't even go up to her and say anything. Like, I can see if Diamond was pressing Biggie, then she could go off like that, but she just went off just by seeing Diamond walk by. So all the baddies are on stage dancing and having a good time with each other because everybody already did their performances, and all of a sudden Suki looks over and she sees Gretchen on stage dancing and she feels some type of way. So she walks up on Gretchen from behind and just starts hitting her. Like, she snuck her from behind, she snatched her up really quick and she was just hitting her, okay? And then when Gretchen was looking around trying to figure out who snatched her up because she didn't know who was fighting her, she sees that it was Suki and she's trying to get over there to Sukiyana, and all of a sudden Suki pulls out a can of bear mace and she sprays it all over the place. And everybody's trying to get off stage, everybody's running, everybody's crying, screaming, they're choking, they can't breathe, they're getting water poured all over their heads and faces. Like, that was crazy that Suki did that. I'm sorry. I feel like these baddies need to be checked before they show up to any house meeting or any event that they have to do because this is not good. That's dangerous to do something like that. And Gretchen got it the worst because some of that got sprayed directly in her face. And the crazy part about it is that Sapphire is supposed to be Sukiyana's friend, but Sapphire got it pretty bad with that bear mace. She was one of the people that had to have water dumped all over her face because she couldn't open her eyes. I want to know how Suki was able to get bear mace into the building in the first place. I mean, they don't check these girls. I enjoy the content on Zeus, specifically Baddies, because this is the only show on there that I watch, but I feel like they're going to get a lot of lawsuits at some point because of people like Tommy and Suki that they keep bringing on the show and they keep doing crazy shit like this. But the baddies finally get on the bus after being sprayed with bear mace, and why the hell was Smiley rubbing, frosting all over her face saying that she was doing it to help the burning from the bear mace? I thought that was crazy. Smiley is always doing something. And I'm not gonna lie, the back and forth between Jayla and Smiley on this bus ride had me cracking up the whole time because how come Smiley was saying that she would have rather been stabbed than sprayed with bear mace? And the facial expression that Jayla had was so funny to me. Like, she was genuinely annoyed at the fact that Smiley said that and the two of them started going back and forth about it, but I'm sorry, that was funny. Now the next day, Dolly and Lex meet up with each other, and I'm not gonna lie, I like the two of them together without Summer. I mean, I did like the big three because I liked how they had each other's back and they stood by each other even when everybody wanted them to fall apart. But now that we see how things ended up turning out, I do like Dolly and Lex as friends together. It just seems like they're able to show more of their individual personalities and they're able to get to know some of the other girls and then also come together when need be and be a duo with each other. So I really liked them. But remember, Dolly has been MIA for a couple of days at this point because she ended up going back home for a little while after she had that one episode where she was fighting everybody, and she comes back with her hand wrapped up because she really hurt her hand during all those fights that she had. So Lex ends up updating Dolly on everything that's been happening since she's been gone, and she lets Dolly know that she beat the hell out of Summer because Summer just would not leave her alone. And during this conversation, both Lex and Dolly said that they never wanted to get into a physical fight with Summer, but she just would not let things go. She said that she didn't want to be friends with them anymore, but yet she kept antagonizing them. She could have just left them completely alone after saying she didn't want to be their friends, but instead she kept getting drunk and coming at them. They said that Summer had been going on live trying to lie on them and embarrass them and tarnish their names, and they felt some type of way about it because they never expected Summer to do anything like that to them. But Dolly did end up asking Lex why her and Summer did not tell her about what they were doing in the bedroom, and basically she said that she wanted to know but she didn't want to be a part of it. So Dolly is making it really clear that she doesn't swing that way. But Lex said it was true that Summer did go down on her, and then she gets in her confessional and she pulls up a screen grab of Summer, going down on her. It's blurred out, obviously for a good reason, because we don't need to see that. I know some people were saying that they wanted to see it. I don't understand why. But I'm ready to wrap this conversation up about Lex and Summer allegedly going down on each other. Who gives a damn? It's not like it's the first or the last time that some women are going to go down on each other, especially not on this show. I'm pretty sure multiple of these girls have done that before, either with their friend or with somebody else. I mean, we know that Russian Cream and Marissa had something last season, and then we know that Scotty and Natalie had something going on. So why is it that big of a deal about the Summer and Lex thing? So the baddies are on the bus on their way to the new house in Houston, And everybody's talking about how they have a big issue with Suki because she sprayed Bear Mace, and the issue that she had was with Gretchen, so why did everybody else have to suffer because she has a problem with Gretchen? I mean, they have a valid reason to be upset. Suki had no business spraying that Bear Mace on stage. That's crazy. And then number two, how did she even get the Bear Mace? But then Suki says that she had a bottle of Bear Mace that she kept with her because she uses it in case a stranger tries to walk up on her, but it's not for the baddies, it's specifically for strangers, and she couldn't find it. She didn't know who stole it. She said that she wasn't accusing Suki of stealing the Bear Mace, but she feels like somebody took her Bear Mace and gave it to Suki to use. I think that's crazy that they're even allowed to have that stuff on them, not while they're filming. I don't feel like they should have any type of weapons or any type of mace. But Sapphire lets the baddies know that she understands why everybody has a problem with Suki because it was wrong for her to spray the Bear Mace. However, Suki is still her friend, so aside from Gretchen, if anybody else wants to fight Suki over the Bear Mace, they'll have to fight her. And I don't think Sapphire is wrong for that because yes, Sukiyana was wrong, but at the end of the day, I'm not about to let all these girls fight my friend just because they're mad that she sprayed some Bear Mace. I would have my friends back too, so I feel like she's doing the right thing. However, Suki just did too much. And to somebody like Gretchen, like, look how small Gretchen is. Why would you need to use anything to fight that girl? But Suki is on the bus annoyed because all the girls are yelling about how they have an issue with Sukiyana, and she starts telling them that Suki wouldn't have even used the Bear Mace on Gretchen or anybody else had she not been told by one specific baddie that Gretchen was gonna sneak her. And I mean, Sapphire did say that she wasn't gonna name the person who said that to Suki, but if the person wanted to come forward, they could. And Mariah immediately starts getting over the top crazy because she's mad that she feels like she's being blamed for what Suki did. She starts yelling, saying that she didn't tell Suki that Gretchen was gonna sneak her. She said that she told Suki that Gretchen said that when her neck heals up, she has to get that with Suki. But Sapphire starts saying that the way that, Mariah said it to Suki, it's like she implied that Gretchen was gonna sneak her, and Mariah starts yelling, jumping out of her seat. Her veins are popping out of her neck and her face, and it's like, damn girl, you must have really did what Sapphire saying that you did because you wouldn't get this mad. Like, y'all just said that Lex beat the fuck out of Summer because Summer said that they went down on each other and it must have been true because of that. Well, then the same thing applies to Mariah Lynn. She must have really said that shit to Suki for her to get that mad. It's giving that Mariah Lynn likes to be messy behind the scenes because this is not the first time that we're told on this show that Mariah Lynn has gone behind the scenes and called somebody on the phone and said some shit and then a whole bunch of drama broke out. I mean, this just happened in last week's episode between Scotty and Natalie. Natalie said that she got a phone call from Mariah Lynn because Mariah Lynn was mad at Lemmy and some things were said on that phone call, and Mariah Lynn was hooting and hollering saying that she didn't say the things that Natalie said she did, but I'm starting to believe she might have said those things that Natalie said she did because now the same thing is happening with her, Suki, and Gretchen. Mariah Lynn definitely should have minded her business, but that still doesn't justify Suki doing what she did with the Bear Mace because even if Mariah Lynn did tell her that Gretchen was going to sneak her, that still doesn't excuse Suki using Bear Mace because at the end of the day, she could take Gretchen without using anything to fight her with. Now, the baddies end up pulling up to the house in Houston, and this house is huge. I don't even think those baddies should be in that house because they'll destroy it, okay? That's probably the reason why they made the girls go outside and have the house meeting in the backyard. And I thought it was funny how everybody was telling Smiley that she needed to go outside because they didn't want her stealing anything from the house and selling it because we know that she has that type of reputation. But Dolly and Lex end up showing up to the house meeting after everybody else comes, and Dolly ends up addressing Tavy because Rolly ends up bringing up the fight that Tavy and Dolly had a few episodes ago. And Dolly was trying to say that she felt like Tavy should have stayed out of her and Summer's beef because her and Summer were ex-friends, and Summer immediately chimes in and says that they're industry friends. And the reason why she said that is because after Dolly fought everybody and went home for a few days, she did go on live and she said that she guesses they were just industry friends. And I don't understand why Summer was so offended by that because the way that she started acting towards them after they fell out with each other gave that she wasn't really their friends, that she only saw them as industry friends. So why is it wrong for Dolly to point that out? And I like that Lex told Summer that she wasn't a victim in the situation because she's not a victim. She's not just this innocent person who decided to end a friendship with these two girls and she left them completely alone and then they just started attacking her out of nowhere. That's not the story, and for people to paint the story that way is crazy. You can still like Summer and say that she's not a victim. But then Diamond the Body ends up showing up to the house meeting, and this is where things get funny to me. I'm sorry, Diamond and Biggie are hilarious. They had me laughing the whole end of this episode. And look, I'll say this, I do feel like Diamond started the beef with Biggie because at the auditions for Baddies Africa, she did snatch Biggie out of her seat by her hair and made her fall to the floor, and then Biggie jumped up and started swinging on her, and then Diamond fell too. So that is the origin of the beef that they have. But Diamond walks in and she immediately pulls her wig off her head and she's ready to fight. And I think it's funny because she's doing all this to fight Biggie, and Biggie definitely is not somebody who really fights. I mean, Diamond was in her fight stance and she was walking towards Biggie, and Biggie was kind of walking towards her too, but she was trying to talk. She wasn't really trying to fight. Biggie starts yelling at Diamond, saying that Diamond apologized to her for the way that she was acting at the auditions, and then went online and started bashing her, calling her weak. And then Diamond just decided that she was going to try to swing on Biggie. So she takes a swipe at Biggie. It doesn't land. And then she just grabs Biggie by the front of her hair and drops her onto the floor. And I thought it was funny because Biggie was on the floor yelling that it was her Balenciaga sneakers that caused her to slip and fall, even though we definitely know that it was Diamond that dropped her. And I'm not saying that she dropped her as in she beat her up. She dropped her because she grabbed her by her hair in the front and dropped her on the floor. And Tasuki's telling Biggie to get up. And I'm sorry, Tasuki had me laughing so hard when she got in her confessional and she copied Biggie's voice when she was yelling about her Balenciaga sneakers. That shit was funny. So Biggie gets up off the floor because Tasuki tells her to, because obviously Tasuki doesn't like seeing them get beat up like that. So she gets up off the floor and her and Diamond are arguing with each other again, and Biggie starts asking Diamond if she thinks she's weak, because we know that Biggie doesn't like when people call her weak. Biggie honestly cares too much what people think. Who cares if Diamond thinks that she's weak? Some people might think that Diamond's weak, and it doesn't matter. It should not affect her this much. But as Diamond's answering the question, Biggie starts running at Diamond, trying to swing on her, and she misses. And Diamond just grabs onto Biggie's wig and pulls it right off her head. Now, they end up fighting another round, and this time they actually were swinging on each other. It wasn't a good fight, but they were both swinging on each other, and then they fell to the ground and security was trying to break it up. I thought this was so funny, not only because of them, but because of the baddies in the background laughing, because neither one of them can really fight. Diamond and Biggie can't really fight. So watching the two of them fight each other was funny, especially because Biggie plays too much and so does Diamond. So the end of this episode was funny to me. But then Tavy ends up asking Diamond if she wants to fight because the two of them have an issue with each other. And as soon as Diamond says, yeah, the episode stops there. And look, this episode was entertaining to me. I thought this was a good episode. I don't think that it was too much going on to where you couldn't focus on one specific thing. I thought just enough happened in this episode. So those are my thoughts on this week's episode of Baddies USA. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comment section, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video.